present. 100% say, but one of the other members will come next time, and other physicians and doctors will rotate, so you don't always see me. But we have other physicians. We have a optometrist who's in the community. I'm trying to recruit to talk about some eye diseases, and anybody else that you know, if you could identify them to me and with some of us permission, and if we accept, and we can rotate so that we get different things. So today, I'm going to go over a few things. Just a month ago, the United States American Heart Association published the 2019 statistics about heart disease. So this is going to be very up to date. So I'm going to give you some very up to date statistics. And I brought a few handouts. So the first one that I'd like to go over is this, because I see a lot of youth. And we have a lot of parents. This is the recommendations for preventative health in pediatric healthcare. Who knows what the word pediatric means from our younger group? Anybody? Pediatric? Anybody want to be a pediatrician? Anybody remember? Younger than 18 in general. So from birth till 18, that's our pediatric group. So those are the kids here. And for the parents in the room, these are very important recommendations. And there's also ones for the adults above 18. And so these are the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations on things that we as parents should look after, and the doctor should also look after. And then it kind of gives you infancy, which is 9 months to 1 year, early childhood, 1 to 4 years. Peak is the mid-childhood, 5 to 10 years, and then adolescence, 11 to usually 18, but it looks like it goes all the way to 21. And I'll let you read some of this more at home. You can grab some handouts if you're interested. But for our purposes today, there are a few things. So on the first category on the left, you see it says measurements. I want you to look at two. One is the body mass index, and the second is the blood pressure. It turns out that we actually do check height and weight and follow that in our youth, in our pediatric population. And we also check their blood pressure, something that none of us really think about. Now, we don't check it as frequently as adults, but when you go to the doctor, if your children have not had it at least checked once, and it looks like once they get into middle childhood, or definitely adolescence, they should check their blood pressure once. So just kind of focus on that and see what that is. And then we should also be checking body mass index. Does anybody in the room remember what our calculation for body mass index was? Or what is body mass index?
Height and weight or something?
That's right. So sometimes we have shorter people that are very overweight. Sometimes we have very tall people that are very thin. And so how do you put the two together? So it's a combination. We get our weight in kilograms and we divide it by our height in meters squared, and we get a body mass index, remember? But the most important thing is that, remember, our youth are overweight, and in fact, approaching obesity. And this is a way that you can screen. Most of illnesses are preventable. That's the key. That's one of the things that I want to focus on, preventative health. But if you don't check, you can't prevent it, right? So you have to check. So many even of the scary illnesses like cancer are preventable, but you have to screen. So this is for our youth. The next one is sensory screening. The next category, vision and hearing. Have all of you guys done a hearing test? Do you guys remember that, the youth? Have you done that? You need to do that because it's something that is very easily screenable and treatable. And you need to do that hearing test if you put on the headset and then you raise your hand. And also color vision, because some of the population from where we're from, we have color blindness, and that's a genetic issue. So if you don't screen, they have to show you a book and you have to trace the numbers and the colors. So that's something that I wanted to focus on. The next category for us as a population is a little bit difficult to talk about, but I have a lot of statistics that I want to talk about. That's developmental and behavioral health. It turns out that unfortunately, some of our youth are involved in certain things that maybe they're not supposed to be involved in, and we should screen for that. With your permission, tobacco, alcohol, drug use, and depression. Okay, so this is a different world than some of the countries where we're from. and now they have different pressures. So you have to screen them at home, and their doctor has to talk about that. I was reading a study just recently that was talking about teenage use of marijuana, which is a drug. And unfortunately, the state that I was from in California, it's pretty much legal. In Canada, it's pretty much legal, and I don't know what it is in Washington State, but it might be available. 20% of our adolescents are using it, and that goes up to something like 30% in college. And so if you don't screen, we don't find out. And unfortunately, astaghfirullah, some of our communities are not immune. It's less in our communities, but not immune, right? We want zero tolerance and zero tolerance policy. And so that's something that I want people to focus on. The next one is the next category, physical exam and procedures, is a little more specific to your doctor. They check blood tests and so on and so forth. Yes, and the last one is fluoride. You know, our dentists, kids do need to go to the dentist. Kids do need to brush, learn how to floss, and they need to have fluoride in their, we have fluoride in the water, but they have fluoride in their toothpaste, and that's something that they need to focus on. I'll let you look at this more. Yes, sir.
What is fluoride?
That's good. Okay, of course. What is fluoride? So does anybody here know what fluoride is? Has anybody here taken chemistry yet? Do you know which element fluoride is? Anybody? We know the element. Yeah,
FL.
that's right. Periodic table. You know, something like that. And yes, it is one of our elements that helps protect the tooth from cavities. Like it helps with the enamel and make it stronger. And again, it's just something that needs to be added, and it's something that needs to be followed. But going to the dentist is most important. Even myself, I'm new here, I have to find a dentist, but you have to have your regular checkups at least twice a year.
Is fluoride in toothpaste?
Many of them, yes. Some of them, no. You know, some of us are into very natural products and they eliminate the fluoride in there. And you know, that's something to talk about with your family. It's a little bit philosophical, who likes it and who doesn't like it. But the American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend it, at least when we're younger. You make the tooth strong, and then later on you can, you know, mess up the tooth. But we want it strong at the beginning. Yes.
No,
Okay.
he asked my
You always
question.
ask good questions, mashallah. So anyway, this is something that, you know, that you don't have to memorize, something to look at over at a family, but this is the official recommendation. So this is up to date. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, subhanallah. So, with your permission, I'm going to move from the youth to the adults and maybe go back to the youth. So, the 2019 statistic, this is slightly depressing. 40% of the United States, which is about 120 million people, adults, US adults, 120 million people, now have heart disease. So they changed the definition of heart disease. That's almost 1 in every 2 people. So when you look to the right, you see a person, either you have heart disease or that person sitting next to you. This is not on any one issue, this is just one of the statistics. And they define heart disease as coronary artery disease, which is a blockage in your heart artery that causes a heart attack, high blood pressure, something that's called heart failure when your heart can't squeeze, and stroke. So that's something that we really want to work on as a group, that we want to make sure that we screen ourselves for those things and we make sure that we don't have it. And that's why I gave the adults, and the youth can do this too. This is the official recommendation I talked about last time, but this is a nice handout that I want everyone to look at called the Simple 7, okay? This is handout number 2. There are 7 things on this handout that the American Heart Association is promoting, and they feel that they can reduce the incidence of heart disease by 20% and help us live, one of the doctors even said, 50 years without an event. And if you can do these things before age 40, you can live 50 years longer without having an event. So, the first one is getting active. Without reading it, does anyone remember our activity guidelines? Does anyone remember what I did last time? What are the guidelines for how active we're supposed to be? Let me, activity. So for a youth, it's 1 hour a day, it turns out. But good guess, or good suggestion. So 1 hour a day for our youth. I'm gonna talk about that because we might not be needing that. How about adults? 30 minutes a day? So they do it by week. 150 minutes of moderate activity a week. Or 75 minutes of higher level activity. So, show of hands, who's doing that? I can tell you, I'm a physician. I just moved here. I played soccer today for the second time in 5 months. So I need to get better too because it rains here, it snows here. Mashallah, Zain is doing it. Mashallah takes you to skiing, which is physical activity, that's good. But it's harder here. It's much harder here than it was where I was. I mean, it's always sunny over there. So we have to work on that as a group. We have to have hiking groups. We have to have maybe something that we can rent a place just for the women or the men, something like that. But if days become nights, we work long hours. It's dark when you leave. It's dark when you come back. But these are the recommendations. And so, since I have the statistics, less than 23% of the population met those recommendations. That's not good. So
50 minutes per week?
150. 150 minutes of moderate activity per week. 75 minutes of high level activity. So like moderate activity is like a light jog. Higher level activity would be like squash or badminton or tennis or soccer or volleyball or swimming or skiing. You're actually getting your heart rate up. You have to stop and take a break and restart. So
there's a heart rate kind of thing that this
yes.
much of.
So the heart rate, remember again, so this is for our adults now. Target heart rate. And I know this is a technologically savvy community and everyone's got their watch and app and everything. But this is how we do it. We calculate this by 220 minus your age. Okay, so this will give you 100% max heart rate. And now there's different philosophies after that. My view as a cardiologist is you want your heart rate to be less than or equal to 80%. 80% of this number. So 220 minus your age times 80%. Yes, sir.
What does a cardiologist do?
Cardiologist treats heart disease. So if someone has chest pain, or heart attack, or high blood pressure, they go to the doctor. They don't go to the pediatrician because that's a doctor for kids. They don't go to the dentist because that's a doctor for your teeth. They go to a cardiologist. Yes. Okay, so we want our heart rates to be less than 80%, okay? So you do not want your heart rate to be extremely high. Remember I drew that curve last time from the Copenhagen City Heart Study, the U-shaped curve? I can draw that again. So the more you exercise, there's more cardiac events. The less you exercise, there's more cardiac events, remember? So if you exercise very intense, you can have a heart attack. If you don't exercise at all, so-called couch potato, you can have a heart attack, remember? That's obvious because as we get older, our body is getting older. We can't tolerate the same way that our youth can exercise. But people who exercise live longer. So it is important to exercise, not over-exercise.
So when you say 80%, you're saying 80% of the target heart rate?
80% of this, right. 80% of the target heart rate. 220 minus your age, and then multiply times 80.
And that would be your resting. Is that your resting heart rate? Then?
No, that should be the max heart rate that you achieve while exercising.
Okay.
So like if your heart rate shouldn't go much above that. So I have a lot of patients that are runners and cyclists, and they tell me I get my heart rate up to 180. I'm on a ride. I said that's not what I recommend. Like keep it lower because obviously if your heartbeat is beating at 180 beats per minute all the time, your chances of having a heart attack or a heart arrhythmia or a problem go up. So there's no point to do that.
So the target is, you're recommending less than the target?
No, this target, nobody recommends the target. This is just the official calculation. So like people have these things where they say fat burn and all these different things, but the recommendation medically is 80%.
80% of that target.
80% of that number, yes. I mean, when you go to the gym, it says like fat burn and all these type of things. I'm not sure who made that. But this is from data. This shows that, you know, your risk goes down if you keep it.
So it's related to the 75 minutes of intense exercise?
That's right, yes, it's related to more intense exercise, even moderate, because if you're not very conditioned, your heart rate's gonna go up fast, right? But you still don't want it to go very up high, you have to take a break, you have to slow down.
So then moderate and high would have a definition related to the heart rate?
Both of them keep your heart rate under this.
Okay.
Yeah, both of them keep your heart rate under that. Moderate to high is just the level of intensity. Yes.
So, so you have to do 1 hour, you have to do 1 hour, you need to exercise 1 hour a day, and then that's when you do the whole day, and then the next day you have to do 1 hour, and then.
You gotta do 1 hour again, just like our salat. Every day we gotta do our salat, every day we have to do our exercise. Wake up again, salat again. Yes, mashallah. But the fact is that 80% of the country is not doing that. Okay, so that's number one, get active, right? Get active. Another two or three of these is related to our food intake, okay? So losing weight, okay, we're just gonna read left to right, losing weight. Among Americans 20 and older, 145 million are overweight or obese. So remember I said that, so the youth need to screen, 20% of our youth and 40% of our adults are overweight. So again, just like the first one, physically active, it's an epidemic. Losing weight actually will help your mood, help your sleep, help your physical activity, and help prevent the rest of these problems, is losing weight. So I want you to actually get a scale. If you don't have a scale at home, get a scale and check your weight, okay? You don't have to be obsessed about your weight. I know some people get obsessed about their weight, but you know, just check it once every month, for example. See where your weight is. But that's number two, controlling cholesterol. Does anybody remember what we said about cholesterol, the 4 different types of cholesterol? Do we have an idea about that and what the goals are? Has everybody here checked their cholesterol? Should youth check their cholesterol?
What are the difference of cholesterol and calories?
That's a good question. Cholesterol and calories. Calories come from, well, that's a good observation, yes. One of the types of foods is cholesterol, and other types of food, you have an idea? Protein, for example, I'll give you one, maybe other people can tell me. We get our calories from protein, carbohydrates, and fats, which is a cholesterol, right? So this is where your cholesterol comes in. Zain. So you're right. So I think Zain is bringing up an excellent point. So what I want you to leave here with is read the back of the packages. You know, we focus on the back of the packages to make sure it's halal. You got to also focus on the back of the packages to make sure you know the calories and the intake of what you're taking. So it could be halal, but it might not be the best for you as a health decision. So I want you to read the back of the packages. And your cholesterol numbers, your total cholesterol, so you have to check, should be less than 200. Your triglycerides should be less than 150. Your HDL, if you're a man, should be greater than 40. If you're a woman, should be greater than 50. And your LDL, if you ask me, should be less than 100. These are some targets. And these are things that we hope that at least you check. So some people are afraid of needles, and that's true, but now they have some finger stick ones that you know you can really get a check. At least you should know, you know, what your cholesterol is. Yes.
So, if you eat too much calories, will you get overweight?
Excellent question. What do people think to that? I have some people that think that I have some relatives actually that think that I can eat all the fats that I want as long as I'm thin. And I tell them what Zain was getting at. You gain weight if your calories go up. So if you eat a bunch of protein, does anybody know one type of protein that we eat?
Egg?
Meat. There's some in eggs. Yes, brother?
Eggs?
Eggs, yes. Somebody. Beans, that's right. Our beans have protein in it. Yes.
Apple.
Apples, they might have some, but it might not be the most, right? But they have some sugars, so mostly are beans and meats, okay? So, and the veggie-based proteins are better than the meat-based proteins, okay? So that's what we're trying to move towards. But if you eat 2,500 calories of beans, you're gonna gain weight, right? That's what Zainab was saying. Our carbohydrates, does anybody know what our carbohydrates that we eat a lot? Bread. Yes, anything else? Rice, mashallah. Half the world grew up eating rice, right? All of our countries, and we still eat rice, but every day. Potatoes, so those type of groups, pastas. So there was a recent study that talked about women. So there's a women here today that said that sugary drinks, even diet drinks, increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. And that's because there's some carbs in there, and who knows what else they put in the diet drinks, I don't know, but that just got published. It was quite interesting. Because that's multiple studies that show that diet drinks actually increase your risk of heart disease, yes.
Does our body need fat?
Our body does need some fat. And so where do we get our fats from, Zane?
Junk food.
Junk food, that's true. That's not where we want to get it, but that's true. We do get it from that. And Zane brings up a very good point. Actually, I don't know if you heard on the news, there was a French study that just got published maybe 2-3 weeks ago talking about ultra-processed food. Did you see that one? They were talking about ultra-processed food. And I was a culprit. I was a culprit of some of them. Some of our cereals, some of our breads, anything that they add, we need to have primary foods more. So vegetables, even our milk and our cheese and all of those things, we don't want to add any artificial substitutes to it.
What are primary?
So primary foods, so eggs, cheese, milk, whole grains without modifications, things that we don't change. And because we change everything, or whoever we buy these things from change everything. So I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do. I do eat bread. I guess I'm not going to eat cereal. Because it was very remarkable. For every 10% increase in calories from ultra-processed foods, your mortality increased by 14%. You would 14% higher chance of dying if you had 10% more calories from ultra-processed foods. I'm pretty sure that I have cereal in the morning. I'm pretty sure that that's some of my calories, and that's too much.
So I think, but I think the distinction is that the ultra refined stuff is bad, right? So like sugar versus brown sugar versus white sugar, even
high
more raw.
fructose corn syrup, those
Right.
type of sugars, right? There are other foods that.
So there could be healthy cereals also. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
I'm sure there
you can
have
find
to
whole
investigate.
grain.
That's why I have to do more investigation. But certainly, you're not buying any of those ones when you go in that aisle on Safeway. They all look like very colorful. You just need to just keep on going. You don't want to pick up any of those because it was quite a remarkable. I mean, for every 10% increase, 14% mortality is very high for me. So, but that's something interesting. And there's a whole list that I guess I can generate an email out of the foods that they looked at. But vegetables, those are good. Vegetables are primary things. Those are safe. You try to get organic vegetables, fruits, fish, meat, things that we can control.
The more close to nature you go, the more better.
Close to nature, that's the view that I got. But the point was that I wanted to let people know that if you increase your calories, you will increase your weight. It doesn't matter what group you do. Okay, so those of us that say it's very difficult for me to lose weight, it is because your calories are too high and you're not exercising.
Is that safe to assume that if you are not, your weight is not continuously increasing, that means your calories intake is
It's
fine?
matching your basal metabolic rate. So for whatever you do, so for walking, for driving, for the level of exercise that you do, for movement, anything, you're burning the calories you're intaking. Yes. Yes, there was a sister had a question. Sorry, Zane. Yes.
Brother, the protein shake, this is the.
Yeah.
Is it more protein than beans and meat?
The protein shakes that, if you want to make your own protein shake, that would be good. Those were actually listed in those ultra-processed foods. So these type of things that we purchase. So there are certain people that have to take those things medically. They need calorie boosters and things like that. So I'm not talking about them, but
Okay, like my son, 16, every time go to gym, he did.
No, those we shouldn't do though. No, those we have to
That's what
discourage.
I wanna know.
No, those we have to discourage, yeah, those we have to discourage, but there are certain people that they have problems absorbing protein or absorbing food. They're a little bit older population, and, you know, they're not in this group that's being studied with ultra-processed foods. They need to take these supplements, but no, definitely, no healthy person in the room should be taking any of those. You know, we really don't need it. Okay, so that's cholesterol, and then that goes right into number 4, which is reducing our blood sugar. Yes.
So, like, if you eat too much bread, you basically, get stronger on the bread. But basically, the other parts, like vegetables, those nutrients, like, you won't be in your body, and then those parts will be weak, right?
Well, that's a good point, yeah, so, you know, you get full, and all of your calories come from bread, and there's no room for vegetables, or fruits, or protein, or other things. So we have to control our portions. Reducing blood sugar, what is blood sugar related to? What's the diagnosis that sugar is related to? Which diagnosis from our youth? Diabetes, right. From our older youth, that's good. Our older youth is always available to comment, yeah. So sugar, increasing our sugar will cause diabetes, right? And the statistics for diabetes in this latest 2019 statistics was also very sad. 26 million people in the United States have diabetes. So that's the whole state of California, for example, right? Just, they all have diabetes, let's say. 10 million people have undiagnosed diabetes. That's even more scary. So, you know, if you don't even know you have a problem, and this I learned from an endocrinologist. An endocrinologist is a doctor who treats diabetes. Yes, I knew you were going to ask me, so I preemptively took a strike there. So, mashallah, the diabetes is reversible if you catch it at the beginning. Even if you lose weight and you change your diet and you're the best patient on the planet, it no longer becomes reversible if you let it go for some time. And that's the key. You have to screen for diabetes. It doesn't matter about weight. There's a lot of genetic components to diabetes, physical activity to diabetes, stress related to diabetes. So you have to screen it. So that's one thing. And then 100 million people have pre-diabetes, borderline diabetes. Pre and post. Pre means something before, post means something afterwards. So you almost have it. You're on the border. Like you live close to Vancouver, Canada, you're on the border. Close. But, and the interesting thing is, and this is what sort of is important for our group, they have studies where they show immigrant populations where back in their home country, their life expectancy is actually higher. When they come to this country, it goes down because they assume the same diet, pressures, stresses, environment. And so, again, we're not immune to that. That's all I wanted to alert us to. We have to check ourselves too. Just because we are different in terms of our culture and our likes and dislikes, that doesn't mean we're immune to these problems. Okay, so eating better, I think we talked about that in general. Concepts are what Sayed was saying was more natural foods, okay?
Keto diet.
Yes, I'm not a fan of the keto diet. If you want to do the keto diet for a month with supervision to lose weight, that's something different, but that is not a sustainable diet. What it does is it tries to make your body go into a particular metabolic state, like different than normal. You don't eat certain types of foods and you eat other types of foods and your body can potentially lose weight faster. Not sustainable. There's no way to look at the easiest calculation to lose weight is this. If you reduce 500 calories a day, at the end of the week, you'll lose 1 pound. Yes, only 1 pound. I know, that's true. But if you do this for 12 weeks, you've lost 12 pounds. If you do this, 14 weeks, 14 pounds. The problem is people get discouraged. Okay? So, 500 calories. First of all, you don't eat that candy bar or even that protein bar, or whatever, supernatural bar that you get at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods that has 250 calories. That's one. And you go walk and burn 250 calories. And that day you reduce 500 calories, right? You don't have to just starve yourself for 500 calories. It's a combination of food and physical activity. And if you can, work on that, 3 months, you're on your way. So that's the major, most important calculation. I've been in practice for multiple years. I don't tell any specific diet. I help, yes, sister.
If some people don't want to lose weight, but they want more active, what can they do?
More activity than, these are our recommendations. So 150 minutes and 75 minutes of heavy activity. So you have to get out. If you have not done any physical activity, I always tell people to start walking first. You got to get good shoes and start walking, okay? And yes.
Is coffee healthy?
Coffee. Coffee, 1 or 2 cups of coffee is probably okay. There's certain people who cannot drink coffee because they have irregular heartbeats. It gets them really charged, and their blood pressure might change and their heart rate might change. So in general, I would vote for less on the coffee, but I understand that coffee, a lot of people really do drink coffee, so I would go for
So the Starbucks coffee is the same thing as that?
If you ask my opinion, I would say do not drink coffee in that regard, with respect to that question. Yes. Yes. So, yes.
With reversing diabetes, is
Yes.
that only possible with type 2 diabetes?
Excellent. So that is true. So unfortunately, there's no cure for type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is what our infants get, or youth get, children get. In very, very rare cases, older, but that is where the pancreas doesn't work at all. The islet cells in the pancreas fail, and you have to inject insulin, and it's very complicated and a little bit different. Type 2 diabetes is very weight sensitive, environmental sensitive, food sensitive, and curable. It will evaporate and go away and never come back to you. Stopping smoking. So
I want to just
Yes.
make one final point, because I think when people talk about calorie, they talk about quantity of calorie but not quality of calorie.
yes,
Right, and I think the
Both important, right?
both are important.
Yes.
For instance, I think anything that's, from what I've learned over time, is anything that absorbs in your blood fast is worse than anything that absorbs slowly, and that's why
Yes.
white rice is worse than brown rice,
That's
and
right.
brown sugar is better than white sugar.
right. That's somebody else mentioned the same thing. If it melts in your mouth, it's probably not good for you. Another doctor told me that. Yes.
So if you basically smoke, what will happen to your body?
Okay, I'm going to really focus a little moment on smoking, because unfortunately, again, astaghfirullah, in our community, there remains to be smokers. It's just mind-boggling that we have smokers in our communities, and not here. I don't know, where I was from and other places. So what does smoking do, the brother said? Can anybody tell me what does smoking do?
A lot of people say that it makes your lungs probably bad.
It does. It causes lung cancer and something called emphysema or COPD. Those people who cannot breathe. Excellent. What else does it do?
But it bothers the person next to you.
Secondhand smoke.
Secondhand smoking.
Secondhand smoke. So this is where I was going to jump on our smoking friends. Secondhand smoke.
It's free.
So the statistic on secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke at home or work increases your risk of heart disease by 25 to 30%. That was the 2019 statistic. That's high. Increasing your risk by 1/4 to 1/3. Secondhand smoke. So everybody believes that they're smoking and no one can tell. I can tell when my neighbor smokes. It just comes over, and I don't know what to do. I close everything, and I don't like it, but so yes, go ahead.
So basically, some people basically, if they're smoking, another person wants to smoke too, so then they take it out of their mouth and put it in their mouth.
Son, I like to comment on that, because those of us who think that Why are we here? Why are we coming to Sunday school? Why are you coming to the masjid? Why are you bringing your kids everywhere? Because you want them to learn all those good things. And then when we go home and some of us do things like smoking, well, they're obviously going to learn that too, astaghfirullah. So they learn from us. So those of us who think that you can smoke even one cigarette a day, I'm going to give you that statistic again, those kids will have a higher risk of smoking. Okay? And so those of us who know people from years in the communities and doing the youth program, and when the parents ask, can you help my child stop smoking? You have to stop smoking. Okay, that's 100%. So anyway, the secondhand smoking statistic is devastating, 25 to 30%. Quitting smoking means 0 cigarettes. 0 cigarettes. I told you about the British Medical Journal article last year. I'm going to read the statistic again. Men who smoke 1 cigarette a day, 34% increase of stroke, 70% increase of heart disease. Women who smoke 1 cigarette a day, and we still have women who smoke. I just can't believe it. It's just mind-boggling, but women in our community still smoke. 119% increase of heart disease, 46% increase of stroke with 1 cigarette. So those people who think they can smoke after iftar, all those things in the corner, in the parking lot, I know all of them, I find them. I don't want to see it at all. Yes, sister.
Are percentages for vaping higher?
Santa, that's an excellent question, and I have the statistics because I was going to jump on vaping too. Vaping is on the rise, and it's doubled from 2017 to 2018. 11 to 20% of our 12th graders, 8 to 16% of 10th graders, and 4 to 6% of 8th graders, depending on all of them, are vaping. Yeah, that's something that probably we have to talk about in a proper way, but it's another way that people smoke cigarettes. So we have to figure out a way to educate our population, and it's marketing. They market the youth. This is targeted marketing, and it's not good, but it's prevalent. The sister jumped on it correctly. And so you might say, so what? So this is a study from February 6th. I'm giving you up-to-date statistics, February 6th, 2019. A study of 400,000 people, American Heart Association says vaping or an e-cigarette users had a 70% increase of stroke, 59% increase in heart attack. So even I didn't know that. I mean, I just read it, so I didn't know it was that bad. It is bad. It is bad.
They package it as it's very safe alternative.
Safe alternative. They have different flavors. All these things. I don't want anyone to get involved, but the point is, it's real, okay? And it's bad, real bad. And so anyway, it's also one of the simple 7. So if you don't want to live 50 years. If you don't want to be around, if you don't want to have all those month of Ramadans, all the Laylatul Qadrs, all the different ziyarat, Ashura, and going, you gotta change, so we can be here for a month. Okay, we're almost there. Managing blood pressure is the last one. So this is not that difficult. Okay, we can do this. 7 things. What is normal blood pressure? Who remembers that?
130 over 80.
Okay, that's one of our numbers, Ahsan. What is normal blood pressure?
Minus 28.
Yeah, that's right, okay. And lower is better. Go lower than that, 120 over 70, 115 over 70. The new recommendation is to start considering treatment for people at 130 over 80. Yeah, I'm sure my blood pressure is 130 over 80 right now, so it's very aggressive, very aggressive. Every time this number goes up, this systolic, right? Diastolic. If this goes up, you're doubling your risk. If this goes up by 10 points, you're doubling your risk. If this goes up by 20 points, you double your risk. If this goes up by 10 points, you double your risk. It's very sensitive, very important. Yes, Zain, I didn't catch you.
How do you know your blood pressure?
Blood pressure. You have to go with your dad to Rite Aid pharmacy. You have a Rite Aid where you live?
Yeah.
Yes. In the back of Rite Aid, by the pharmacy, they have a little booth where you sit down and you put your arm in this little thing and you press the button. And then check your blood pressure. Yes. So I want you to do that before I come back next time and tell me what your blood pressure is. So anyway, blood pressure needs to be checked and we need to manage it. How do you manage blood pressure? You take medication? That's the easy way out. How do you manage it yourself? Salt, and of course I have a statistic for you. Sodium intake. The average American male has 4 grams of sodium a day. The average American female has 3 grams of sodium a day. And what is the recommendation? 2 grams or less. So women, 3 grams, men 4 grams. And then I ask all my patients, do you have, you eat sodium? No, I don't eat any sodium. 70% of our intake of sodium is outside of the home. You probably don't have much sodium at home, because everybody knows that. But when you go out to X, Y, and Z halal restaurant, which I also go, we have to be careful, because it's a lot more sodium. So we just have to watch that. So,
Is there a
yes.
low limit also, like?
Yes, that's true. So the ultra-low sodium diets probably are not good. It's also a little bit of a U-shaped curve, but I didn't go into that because I'm pretty sure that none of us are.
No, I think I'm
reach that.
talking more about the blood pressure side. Is there a dangerous level of low?
Yeah, that's a good point. So you don't want your blood pressure less than 100/50.
So if it's less than 100/50,
So some
you
of-
should be concerned.
Concerned is that you have to have a reason. So some of our women have low blood pressure, particularly younger girls that have low blood pressure, but they're normal.
Okay.
But what they do need to do is they need to drink a lot of water, okay, and make sure, especially if they do exercise, they stay hydrated. And they are allowed to have salt at certain times, okay? They are allowed to have salt because they are gonna get dizzy and lightheaded. But some of us who are a little bit overweight and, you know, salting our food that's already spicy anyway, but you sort of just add a little extra salt there. No, you want lower the better. So simple 7, right? Okay, alhamdulillah. So inshallah, by next time, you're gonna have achieved all of those 7. Okay, next thing I'd like to go, since I'm going from from adults to kids, I'd like to show you the 2019 schedule for immunizations for kids. So it says recommendation for child and adolescent immunization schedule for 18 years or younger. Immunizations is a little bit of a philosophical conversation and concept, so, and I'm not going to impose anything on anyone, I'm just going to sort of give you some medical recommendations. Especially, where did Zain go? I was going to ask, okay, especially in our state, does anybody know what happened with one of the diseases or illnesses that was an outbreak in our state? Does anybody remember?
Measles.
Measles, yeah. And so does anybody know what measles can do? We didn't even finish what smoking does, but smoking is bad. Measles. So measles is typically unheard of, but there was approximately 50 cases in Clark County. You guys know where Clark County is?
Bordering
Close to
Oregon.
Yeah, close to Portland. And there's a Vancouver down there too. So Vancouver, and then there was a case in King County.
Oh.
So yeah, that's kind of scary. So measles. Measles, babies, kids, adults, you know, you can get meningitis, so it affects your brain, and then wherever that affects you, you're gonna have problems, right? Some people lose their hearing, some people get other neurologic problems. So yes, it just looks like a rash, and you know, that's fine, but you can actually have serious complications from measles. And that was the reason why I actually wanted to print the list of vaccinations. I have to admit that, you know, I do know the medical background of some vaccinations. Sometimes I'm weary of some of them, but I know they also work. But so I'm not going to sort of get into the philosophical stuff. But certain vaccinations here, now they're recommending the flu vaccination or influenza vaccination for anybody 6 months and older. Specific populations should not get that. But MMR, in the middle of the page, measles, mumps, and rubella. That was the one that I just wanted to sort of recommend that if it meets your philosophical views, our kids should get that one because we had an outbreak here, okay? And there's something called herd immunity. If you get enough people vaccinated, the outbreak is treatable.
So there's people who are vaccinated, children who are vaccinated, there's very low chance of.
Right, that's true, and it also protects some of the newborn babies, you know, and stuff like that. But if you're not vaccinated, you know, I wouldn't be driving to Portland right now. You know, it's serious because it's one train away, one car away, because it's in the air, right? The virus remains in the air. So that's the problem, you know, it's not one of the ones that, you know, you're touching something and you
It's
wash
super
your hands.
contagious, basically.
You
can breathe it in.
very contagious. It's a very contagious one, and that's the scary part. They have some complicated thing, the CDC in Atlanta, they go back and find multiple people that you've interacted with. So if there's a case, they find, I forgot how many, you know, angles of people to figure out how to catch this. It's very contagious. So I just wanted to bring that one up remember, there's certain other ones, here, there's a Tdap, that's another one that I wanted to suggest. If you're 7 and older, we can get a Tdap, and that has tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. In California, we had a pertussis outbreak. And also, people go on vacations and Hajj, these are good ones because if you get cut or stuck, it keeps you from getting tetanus. You need a booster every 10 years. Meningitis, if you go to Hajj, it's required. Or some places, where there's a lot of group of people, some colleges and stuff like that. But this is something that, anyway, this is 2019, it's updated, and please at least take a look at that.
So where is meningitis?
It's bottom, yeah.
Is that the
Meningococcal.
Meningococcal.
I'm not honestly sure which one Hajj requires, the meningococcal first one or the second one, but I think it's pretty much this similar. But in terms of why it happens, because it happens in places where there's a lot of people. You get an outbreak.
So the small kids are not as susceptible to these because it's not recommended.
No, I didn't see it on the, there was one,
First one
meningococcal
is-
B. It is on the, baby, on the kids list at the end, right? Your older kids. And it says C note, so that's because these are high-risk groups. I think these are people that go to college, kids when they go to college, or kids that, you're taking on trips.
If you have been immunized with the MMR or you had one of those in your childhood,
Yes.
then you are immune?
You are immune, and if you wanted to be very, very careful, you can check a titer. You can actually ask your doctor, can you check? Because some of us need boosters. So like I came here to a new job, they made me check. And some of the people that checked needed a booster. So some people's immunity doesn't reach a particular level.
The injection they give it here and then mark.
So that's for tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis,
Yes,
yeah.
so, but this is a blood test now. They have a blood test.
What is a booster?
A booster. So a booster is an extra dose or an extra time of the medication to raise your level of immunity. Yeah, just like a booster seat. Remember you used to sit on that? You don't need one anymore. So, mashallah. So that's the adolescent recommendations. And it's, I put the adult ones because adults, we usually don't get any vaccines. But the next page, recommended adult vaccinations for 2019. This is up to date. So flu vaccination, yes.
Do you recommend the flu shot
Okay,
every
so,
year? Or
yes, right. I go back and forth on the flu shot. I happen to still think that, there are certain companies that sort of run this process, but yes, the official recommendation is to get the flu shot. It does save lives. There are kids, unfortunately, and adults, unfortunately, that die from the flu every year. And so getting the flu shot does protect you from that. And this year, it did better than last year. I think it was, I had it right here, it was like a 40% protection. And I got it, so I wanted to alert you that I actually did get it. But you always wonder, because we're thinkers, but yes, it was a mild flu season so far, and the flu vaccination was effective 47% this season. For children, it was 61% effective. Yes, hello.
Yeah, so we have heard that even if you get the flu shots, there are certain kinds of flus you can still catch.
That is correct, yes, exactly, because they're different strains. So for example, they usually analyze the strains from other countries before it comes here. Like, I believe they do South America because their winter is directly opposite our winter. So they see what strains were prevalent and they put 3 or 4 strains in the vaccine, and so you can easily get one of the other strains. So that's why it's only 50-50 effective. But some people are very susceptible. I mean, I have some family that it seems like they get the flu every year. I said, well, maybe you should really do that. Other people, unfortunately, have other illnesses. So if you get a flu on top of that illness, you're really in trouble. So, and yes, it's a little bit philosophical, but I actually ran a flu vaccine clinic. Well, I helped run a flu vaccine clinic at the masjid there, so we did that once. I get it now myself, yes.
So is there any chance that flu vaccine can hurt you?
Yes, there is a chance, and that's why in Washington State, even after the MMR vaccination scare, there's still groups that go to Olympia and say we should have a choice whether to get vaccinated or not, because in California they removed that. So there was a outbreak from Disneyland, I think it's there, Disneyland, and they removed the exemption, there's a philosophical exemption and one of the other exemptions they removed. But here they have not removed that, and there was a law that they wanted to do that, and people said because if there is risk, we should have a choice. I do believe that too, but I understand that, you know, some of the other ones like measles, you know, we can eliminate it if we all get vaccinated. Flu, you're not gonna eliminate. But yes, there are local reactions. Some people get local reactions, some people get fever, some people get muscle aches, some people get an allergic reaction. Is it related to autism? Okay, so that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Is it related to autism or something called autoimmune diseases? So you inject yourself with a molecule and your body makes an antibody to that molecule, but that molecule cross-reacts with your rest of your body. That's called an autoimmune. So the data for autism, they said that probably it does not cause that. There was some data from England that was a little bit flawed, and so I probably believe that it doesn't cause that. But I'm skeptical enough to say that it's not the best thing in the world and it doesn't cause any problems. Yes, I'm aware of that, but
it does save lives, okay?
it does save lives, and that's the official recommendation. I did get it. I don't know the exact right answer in the world, inshallah, but that's the truth. But you know, this is the other recommendations. Some people who go overseas, they need hepatitis A because it's foodborne. You know, those are the ones I wanted to talk about. Some people who work in hospitals, they need hepatitis B. Again, meningitis. Okay. And so I took up a lot of your time, but in the last 15 minutes is the last page. And again, thanks for everyone. Okay. The last page is the adult preventative healthcare schedule. So, you know, these are for our adults. You know, as we get older, you know, what should I be screening for? Like some people said, when should I have my colonoscopy? When should females, when should I see my gynecologist? And this is the up-to-date recommendation. I couldn't find one 2019, but this is June of 2018. So I want you to kind of look through this. You know, certain ones that I was going to mention are the BRCA gene screening. So for men and women that have breast cancer in their family, it does affect our population. Please get screening. There's cervical cancer, so women should go to their gynecologist. You know, don't make sure you have a gynecologist to get that. There is colon cancer. So I went to I think I said this, but the Imamiya Medics Conference in December, and there was a gastroenterologist. A gastroenterologist is a doctor that treats stomach diseases, okay? And he said that colon cancer is completely preventable. If you screen everyone, we can catch it. You have a polyp there, and they remove the polyp, and it doesn't become cancer.
So that's what the colorectal.
Colorectal cancer is colon cancer. At age 50, you get a colonoscopy or some type of screening. Okay, so some of us, you know, you gotta get that. And then there's some other ones here: osteoporosis, lung cancer. If you're a smoker, and so on and so forth. I wanted you to just look at that. But these are the up-to-date recommendations. There is a recommendation to take an aspirin, and that's being removed. Okay, so you might have seen the up-to-date literature on aspirin use, that it causes probably as much bleeding as it does prevent. Now, somebody who's had a heart attack or stroke, special people, open heart surgery, special people, they should take an aspirin. But if we used to just say, take an aspirin, that's not the case anymore. But that's still out there, they need to remove that. So that's gonna be removed. But anyway, so this is all the up-to-date statistics, inshallah. And I just wanted to look at my notes one more time to make sure I didn't forget anything. I talked a little bit too long here, but I want to leave you maybe with this. There was a statistic that said about half the people in the country don't know the 5 common symptoms of a heart attack. So I just wanted to review that one more time with everybody, so that if something happens, God forbid, you know what to do. So this is going to be a group project, okay? So this is men, women, adults, kids. Let's see if we do better than half the population. So the 5 common symptoms of a heart attack. So a heart attack, again, is when there is a blockage in your heart artery, okay? Your artery takes blood to the heart. There's a blockage, just like traffic. No blood to the heart dies. That's a heart attack, okay? Number 1 killer in the West, heart attack. What are the 5 common symptoms of a heart attack? Number 1, Yes. Yes.
Pain.
Pain. So he says, brother says chest pain, arm pain.
So it would be in your left side, highly
That's-
likely.
That's right. Now, if you're like me and you haven't played tennis in very many millennia, and you go play tennis and you come home and you have arm pain, you're not having a heart attack. It's because you just played tennis, okay? So don't go home and find a heart attack in yourself. But if other things are something else going on and you're just having this pain, that's one of the symptoms. Yes, number 2.
Shortness of breath?
Yes, okay, Sam. Shortness of breath. I'll get to the second. Shortness of breath. This will be our last project as a group. Shortness of breath. So, shortness of breath is you really are having trouble. Okay, shortness of breath is not like running up the steps, trying to catch your kids, and suddenly you think you can't breathe. Shortness of breath is something unusual, something beyond expected.
So without physical exertion, you are getting shortness of breath.
And it's worse with physical exertion. You just want to walk to the bathroom. You really can't catch your air. There's a tightness there. You can't catch your breath.
If you have shortness of breath, your heart might not work, and when you breathe, your heart pumps up and pumps down.
That's right, because your heart is connected to your lungs, and your heart needs oxygen from your lungs. So if you can't breathe, you don't get oxygen in it. The 21% of the air that's oxygen doesn't come in.
When you cannot breathe, you might die.
You might die. Inshallah, no. I hope you live the longest, most fruitful life, inshallah. Number 3. Yes.
Sweating?
Sweating. Ahsan. They put that at 5, but it doesn't really matter. You get a cold sweat. So it's not because it's hot outside. And to be most honest, usually it's associated with one of these other things. I honestly haven't ever seen someone just start sweating and having a heart attack, but usually they're having chest pain and sweating.
Cold sweat, yeah.
Cold sweat, and you didn't do any exercise, but you're sweating. We call that in medical world diaphoresis. It means sweating. And 2 more.
Nausea.
Nausea. Ahsan. Oh yes, of course. What is nausea? I wasn't expecting anything less. Nausea means where you feel like you're going to throw up.
Oh.
Yes. Sometimes that happens when we go in the car. So if you're in the car and driving up to all these places for skiing, you're not having a heart attack. The car is probably widening. But if you're sitting there, you're having chest pain, you feel like you're going to throw up. That happens more in women because women have atypical symptoms, right? So they feel these pains in their stomach. And the last one might be a little bit tricky, but if we get it, then we're better than half of the country, I guess.
Tightness in jaw.
Tightness in your jaw, I'm going to put up here. So this is something called radiation. So I'll tell you what radiation is. There's multiple translations of radiation, but you get pain in your chest and it radiates to your arm or your neck or your back. That's called radiation. Radiation also comes from TV, X-rays, all these other things. Yes, different type of radiation. Yes. Last.
Numbness?
Numbness, yes, that's it. So we're going to call this lightheadedness.
What is that?
I'm coming to that. Weakness, numbness, dizziness. So it's sort of all these type of sensations. You're lightheaded, dizzy, your arm might get numb. That was the 5th one. So remember, it comes like, in a package. You have to sort of put it all together, but knowing that, you might know what to do. And what do we do if that happens? That's what I'm going to leave you with.
Call 911.
Call 911. That's it. You make dua, of course, you start praying, call 911, and if you have aspirin at home, you can take how much aspirin?
As many as you want.
As many as you want. You keep on taking aspirin until they come. Okay?
What is aspirin?
Aspirin, it's a medication. It's acetylsalic acid, I think.
So how many milligrams of like
That was my question. Good question.
you can take as many as you want?
So-
Sounds a little dangerous. You might die of another thing.
Okay, so-
Suicide by aspirin.
The 2 doses that are available in the United States, and the dose in Europe, is 100 milligrams. but the doses in the United States are 81 milligrams, so-called baby aspirin. We don't use that anymore because you're not supposed to give it to babies, right?
Exactly.
It causes Reye's syndrome, so we don't say that.
What is Rett syndrome?
It's a particular illness that kids get when they take aspirin.
Yeah, so no aspirin.
No aspirin. But, so 81 milligrams is the lower dose, 325 milligrams is the higher dose. So you need to chew
Oh, chew it.
the medication, 325 milligrams. So you can take 4 of the 81s, right? So the sister was saying take as many as you want. Take 4 of the 81s or 1 of the 325 and chew it.
Oh, chew
You
it.
can actually stop a heart attack. There's some data that it actually aborts, it stops. It's
Wow.
amazing, just with aspirin. So I forgot the statistic, I don't want to misquote it, but it is data that you can actually stop the heart attack in its tracks.
It doesn't work with paracetamol.
It can, if you have one of those, that's okay. The chewing part, because I'm not sure you can chew the paracetamol part, that's the interesting part. So having just the separate aspirin, because that's more like for pain, so some of those used for pain, but just the pure aspirin. So anyway, thank
So
you.
if
very
you're
much.
at risk, you should have aspirin handy pretty
You
much.
probably should have aspirin handy at home. You should have a plan with your family, 911. You know the 5 common things. We did it. We did better than half the people in the country, alhamdulillah, and inshallah, as a group. By the way, so we're all here as a group, right? So we're here as a group to work together, inshallah, Alhamdulillah is working. All of you are working, this is a great community, and so we're trying our best, inshallah. There was a comment that I'm gonna read real time here about the next session, inshallah. The next session is, inshallah, yes, that's fine. So it sounds like the 3rd Sunday,
March.
May?
March.
May.
When?
It says May,
Oh, May.
yes.
That would be Ramadan.
No, the day before.
They were on May 5th?
May 5th before, yeah,
May
should
5th
be
or
right
not?
before Shak.
Okay, so the next service, inshallah, of Zainab Health Services, it couldn't be a better name. I love the fact that you guys made it around Hazrat. Yes, on the day before the month of Ramadan, inshallah, if it's okay, maybe I'll invite the other gentleman who's an optometrist, inshallah, Brother Habib, because I think it's good to see different faces and learn different things. I'll come back at you after that.
There's brother Nasir also, right?
Yes, yes. I think you gave me all those names, but I have to get them from you again and make a group. But inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.